The envelope lay unopened on the edge of my side desk. Creamy cardstock with gold foil lettering. Alejandro and Marisol Reyes, 40th anniversary celebration. I let it sit there for a week before finally RSVPing yes. The dinner was tonight, and in just under 2 hours, Techline Weekly would break the news of Reyes Capital's newest acquisition, a $70 million 0 cents AI logistics startup that would triple our digital holdings overnight. No one in my family knew I owned Reyes Capital, not even my little cousin, who interned at one of our portfolio companies. To them, I was just Danielle Reyes, the artsy daughter who opened a boutique strategy studio downtown after refusing to join the family's real estate development firm. My brother Javier's text popped up as I zipped up my coat. "Dinner's at 6 sharp, try not to wear anything too weird. Dad invited the Delgados." I chuckled. Javier, the heir apparent, always performing. Meanwhile, I quietly built a private investment empire worth nearly $600 million. 0 cents under my mother's maiden name, Danielle Cortez. Even our family attorney didn't know. Yet, race celebrations were always lavish, dramatic, and status-obsessed. Tonight's dinner was on the rooftop of the Valencia Club, overlooking the Pacific. My driver pulled up just behind Javier's polished Jaguar. "Miss Cortez," my driver said with a wink, "want me to stick around?" "Not tonight, Marcus, but check the news at 8:45. The elevator opened into a sea of familiar faces, real estate moguls, city commissioners, and Reyes cousins in designer dresses, all here to toast 40 years of marriage and remind each other who had done best. Danielle, my mom air-kissed me on both cheeks, her gold earrings swinging. "We were so sure you'd cancel. Still running that little branding business?" "Something like that," I said with a smile. She gave my hand a pitying pat. "Sweetheart, you're 32. You still have time to find something secure. Maybe Javier can talk to you about a role at the firm." I nodded politely, knowing that at 8:45 p.m., every phone in this room would buzz with an alert. Javier strolled over, drink in hand. "Still playing businesswoman, huh?" I raised my glass. Cheers to surprises. "How's the firm?" I asked, swirling my champagne. "Expanding," Javier said, straightening his navy lapel. "Dad's naming me managing partner next month. Unjust in the firm's history," he added with a gleam in his eye. "Congratulations." He leaned in, the heavy scent of his cologne rolling off him like fog. "You know, that offer still stands." I arched a brow. "Offer?" "Junior associate position," he said, as if it were a gift. "You'd have to start at the bottom, of course, but it's still better than—" He waved his hand vaguely, gesturing toward nothing in particular. "Whatever it is you're doing." I took a sip of my champagne. Techline Weekly would publish in less than 2 hours. My photo wouldn't be there, but my name, my real name, Danielle Cortez, would headline across every business feed on the West Coast. "I'm happy where I am," I said, with a calm that only came from owning my destiny. "Happy isn't the same as successful," came a voice behind me. "My father's." I turned slowly. Alejandro Reyes, San Diego's top real estate developer, stood behind his son like a general with his chosen heir, impeccably dressed, graying at the temples, radiating old-school authority. "Although," he continued, "I suppose small business ownership has its charms." "Hi, Dad," I said smoothly. "Happy anniversary." He studied my simple black dress, Valentino, understated, his lips tightening just enough to betray disapproval. "You could have worn that Gucci we sent last Christmas." "This feels more like me," he exhaled, almost wistfully. "Has always been the issue, hasn't it? Your style never quite aligned with the Reyes legacy." The room swelled with voices, planning commissioners, developers, old money, city planners. Everyone who mattered in San Diego's elite real estate circles was here. "Quite a turnout," said a man approaching with a whiskey glass. "The whole power circle's here tonight." My father lit up. "Daniel, meet my daughter. This is—" "The attorney?" he interrupted. My father's smile faltered. No, That's Javier. This is Danielle. She runs a branding consultancy. Ah, Daniel's interest dimmed audibly. Creative. Speaking of business, he continued, have you heard about the Reyes Capital deal? Word is they're buying up a major AI logistics firm, supposed to drop tonight. The CEO, Danielle Cortez, is a mystery. No one's seen her. They say she's brilliant, someone else chimed in. Private, discreet, uses small firms to stay off radar. My father chuckled. They don't use us, just some contract work, nothing major. I raised my glass to hide the smirk. I'd hired his firm for minor filings, just enough to keep them guessing, never knowing they were signing off on my empire. Just then, Xavier reappeared, practically glowing. Speaking of deals, wait until you hear about the merger I just closed. Biggest in firm history, Javier said, his voice rising proudly above the table. Just like that, the room shifted to orbit around his success. Again. I glanced at my phone. 1 hour to go. At the center table, my mother clinked her fork against a crystal glass. Everyone, take your seats, please. The Reyes anniversary dinner had always been over the top, but this year was bordering on cinematic. Hand-carved wood tables, a live string quartet, menus with gold leaf lettering, and more wine pairings than I could count. Before dessert arrived, my father stood and raised his glass. Tonight, we celebrate more than 40 years of marriage. We celebrate partnership, hard work, and the legacy Marisol and I have built together. Applause rolled through the rooftop like a gentle wave. That legacy, he continued, his voice swelling with pride, lives on in our son, Javier, soon to become the youngest managing partner in Reyes and Delgado history. More applause, louder this time. Javier stood, chest out, flashing that movie star smile. And of course, my father said, his tone dipping an octave, our daughter Danielle, who chose a different path. The pause after was so sharp it felt deliberate. She runs a small business, he added with that careful phrasing meant to sound supportive, but never quite did. I checked my phone again. 45 minutes. Danielle, my mother whispered, leaning in, at least pretend to listen. This night means something to your father. I am listening, I said calmly. I'm just waiting on something. Another little design project? Javier chimed in with a smirk. A branding gig for a taco truck? Something like that, I said, keeping my voice light. Dinner carried on as expected. City planners bragging about zoning wins, lawyers trading courtroom stories, old men comparing wine vintages. I just watched the minutes crawl by. You know, Javier said loudly, our junior associates make more in a month than you probably do in a year. Could be, I replied, unbothered. I just hate seeing you waste your potential, he added. You could be part of something real, not some artsy boutique thing. I looked down at my phone. 5 minutes. I turned to him. Actually, I am part of something big. Very big. Javier snorted. Your 3-person studio on 5th? Please. No, I said, voice steady, much, much bigger. My father, catching the tone shift, looked over sharply. Danielle, please. This isn't the time. Would you like the next paragraph to cover the breaking news alert moment? If you've ever been underestimated by your own family or told to stay in your lane, hit subscribe, because what happens in the next 5 minutes will change everything. Not everyone can handle the pressure of real business, Javier said, swirling his wine. There's no shame in staying small. I rose slowly, smoothing the hem of my dress. Would you all excuse me for a moment? I need to take a call. Now? My mother asked, frowning. During your father's anniversary dinner? Trust me, I said with a calm smile. You're going to want me to take this call. As I stepped away, I heard Javier chuckle behind me, just a small business owner trying to play with the big kids. I paused by the doorway and turned back. You might want to turn on CNBC, brother dear. Something interesting is about to happen. I entered the marble hallway, heart steady. The countdown on my screen ticked down. 3, 2, 1. Then came the flood. News alerts, headlines, notifications. Raise Capital acquires Skyport AI for $70 million. 0 cents. Daniel Cortez, the reclusive VC, strikes again. Private equity titan reshapes logistics sector with latest tech acquisition. Inside the banquet hall, I heard it. A sharp gasp. Someone had CNBC open on their phone. In a surprised move, the anchor's voice rang clearly. Reyes Capital, led by the enigmatic Daniel Cortez, has just acquired Skyport AI in a $70 million 0 cents deal, expanding its already formidable digital infrastructure portfolio. I walked calmly back into the room just as Javier sputtered into his champagne. My father was mid-sentence, now frozen. 3 phones on the table lit up. My headshot, professional, composed, flashed across each screen. Daniel Cortez, CEO of Reyes Capital. My mother blinked, stunned. Danielle, what is this? I picked up my wine glass with a practiced ease. Oh, just another day at my small business. The room erupted. Lawyers who'd ignored me minutes ago suddenly leaned forward. Real estate moguls whispered behind hands. City officials stared like they were seeing me for the first time. You're her, stammered Daniel, my father's senior partner. Danielle Cortez? That's me, I said easily. But Reyes Capital is worth $500 million, I finished, give or take. My mother's maiden name, if you're wondering. Not that anyone here ever paid attention to that side of the family. Javier's face drained of color. All this time, we thought you were just running a 3-person branding studio? I smiled. Exactly. That was the point. Though if you'd ever actually visited my little office downtown, I said, letting the words settle, you might have noticed it was just a front. My father finally found his voice. Why? Why didn't you tell us? I looked at him evenly. Would you have believed me? He blinked. Of course. When have you ever believed I was capable of anything more than running a boutique studio? I asked gently, without anger. When I didn't join the firm? When I didn't want to build condos on the coast? He looked down at the phone, still glowing in his palm, headlines still flashing. You're one of the most successful private investors in the country. Yes, I nodded. And I did it without the Reyes name, without your network, without your approval. My mother's hand trembled as she reached for her water glass. If we'd known, sweetheart, you'd have what? I asked quietly. Treated me differently? Maybe introduced me with pride instead of pity? Or not spent years asking Javier to give me a job? The string quartet had stopped. The chatter silenced. Every gaze in the room was fixed on us. My father's perfectly choreographed anniversary dinner had become something else entirely. Something real. The firm, Gébert said, blinking fast. All those tiny contracts from Reyes Capital. You used us as a convenience, I finished for him. Just close enough to keep tabs but never enough to see the full picture. I turned to the firm's senior partner, Daniel. And your billing rates, I added with a slight smile, are quite inflated for basic legal filings. He leaned forward, stammering. Daniel, Miss Cortez, perhaps we should consider moving your major deals to Reyes and Delgado. Now that we know... No, I said firmly. I don't mix family and business. That boundary was made very clear when I declined your junior associate offer. My father winced. Danielle, surely we can... What? I asked. Start over? Pretend you didn't spend years apologizing to others for my path? More alerts buzzed in my pocket. Investors, press, colleagues, and suddenly curious family members. I silenced it all. I don't live in a mansion. I don't drive a car that screams my net worth, I said. Because I don't need to prove anything. I don't measure success by applause. I measure it by what I build. Javier stood, rattled. I need a drink. Sit down, I said, steel in my voice. For once in your life, listen to your little sister, the one you thought needed your career advice an hour ago. Javier sank back into his chair, his confident smirk long gone, replaced by a red flush of embarrassment. Tomorrow, I continued, my voice calm but unwavering, The markets will open and Reyes Capital's valuation will rise again. Reporters will call. Clients will ask your firm about its relationship to me. I looked at my father. People will want to know how the Reyes family produced a woman like me. He met my gaze, his expression unreadable. And what should we tell them? I smiled. The truth. I stood slowly, adjusting the neckline of my understated black dress. Tell them you had no idea. Tell them while you were building the firm and protecting the Reyes name, your daughter was building something bigger. Without your help, without your Rolodex, without your approval. I picked up my clutch. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a merger to finalize. I paused for just a second, scanning their stunned faces. Happy anniversary, Mom, Dad. The dinner really was lovely. Wait, my mother called out. Her voice trembled. Please, can we talk about this? As a family? I turned back, just once. We are talking about it. For the first time in years, you're actually listening. I gave one last glance around the room. The Legacy Club, the judges, the wine glasses still trembling on the white linen. Isn't it interesting what $500 million can do for a conversation? Behind me I heard Javier mutter, barely above a whisper, Jesus. My little sister is Danielle Cortez. My driver was waiting outside, standing by the black SUV with that same calm, knowing look. Home, Miss Cortez? He asked. No, I said, scrolling through the 47 missed calls lighting up my screen, mostly from family. To the office. The real one. The next morning, I sat in my penthouse suite overlooking downtown San Diego. Reyes Capital was up 15% before noon. The Skyport AI acquisition was the top story on every finance feed. My assistant buzzed through the intercom. Your father's here, so is your brother, and 3 senior partners from Reyes and Delgado. I smiled, straightening the nameplate on my desk that read Danielle Cortez, CEO. Tell them I'm in a meeting, I said. They can schedule an appointment just like everyone else. And your mother? She added softly. She's called 6 times. Tell her I'm busy. Running a small business takes work, remember? I turned toward the window, the city I'd conquered glowing under the late morning sun. My phone buzzed with a text. It was from Javier. Can we talk? Please, I had no idea. I typed back. Neither did anyone else. That was the point. Sometimes, success isn't about proving them wrong out loud. It's about building so quietly, so completely, that by the time they realize who you are, it's already too late for them to pretend they believed in you all along. And as I scrolled past headlines calling me the most elusive power player on the West Coast, I couldn't help but smile. Because the best revenge isn't telling them you made it. It's letting them figure it out, preferably while choking on expensive wine at their own anniversary dinner. If you've ever been underestimated by your own family, your workplace, or the world, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, when did you realize your worth? Or are you still holding your breath, waiting for someone else to see it first? Let me tell you something I've learned the hard way. You don't owe anyone an explanation for building your dream in silence. You don't have to announce every step. You don't need their permission. And you definitely don't need their applause. What you do need is belief in your own vision, even when no one else sees it. Support means everything. Not just for me, but for every woman, every underdog, every quiet builder out there. So, if you felt something in my story, if it echoed something in your own, hit that subscribe button. Help stories like ours get heard. Because success isn't always loud. Sometimes it walks into the room without fanfare and rewrites the legacy no one thought you were worthy of. Support the quiet fighters. Cheer for the ones they counted out. And remember, just because they didn't see it coming doesn't mean you didn't plan it all along.